I'd like first to thank Ashneil for that um, introduction. I had a conversation with him, but I didn't realize that I made such a deep impression on him at the time. I think that one of the things that um, I enjoy is enabling or trying to enable people to think for themselves. And a lot of what he had to say, that he's in terms of energy, that's his own research that he did in order to make that presentation. I think that should be something that my role today should emulate. I don't have numbers and figures to present to you, but like every good teacher, I'm asking you to think. And not just think, but research. Not just research, but come up with ideas. My role really, as the screen shows, is the role of energy in the development of Montserrat. To start with, I need to define energy from my perspective. This is what I would tell my class if I was dealing with energy. Energy is broadly defined as the capacity to do work. It cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change its form.
Yeah, we know.
Let me repeat that. It's important. Energy is broadly defined as the capacity to do work. In other words, you can't work without it. You must have that capacity. Secondly, it cannot be created. That means you can't make it. You have to take it from somewhere and carry it somewhere to use. Do something with it. And you can't destroy it. You can only change its form from one form to the next. What are the forms of energy that we have at our disposal in Montserrat? What forms are important to our development trust? Let's look at it. Next slide. We have, to name a few, for development trust: wind, solar, geothermal, hydrogen, chemical. Those are renewables. And we have that old bugaboo, fossil fuels, that we currently use. That's all we have for the most part in our current state. Gasoline, diesel, natural gas, propane, and wood. Mr. Jeffers alluded to his interest in climate change. For us to play our part in climate change, we have to get rid of those fossil fuels and go to those things on the left, the renewables. And it's like if I left out something, I had electricity on the side there. All of these, including the fossil fuels, as we do now, can change that form to electricity. Let's talk about electricity for a minute. Next, please. Electricity, nope, back. Right. I'll get to that. Back up. Forward. Let's define development first, yes. Because the moot is, the role of energy in our development. Next, please. Development is a positive growth or change in the economical, social, and political aspects of a country. Two of those aspects as in economic development or rise in income of people, social development, which includes education, health, and public services. A third element or aspect would be political. We won't deal with that today. That's for another forum. Next, please. Development is a process. It has end objectives that we need to meet. Those objectives, next please. We need to ask questions as to when are we really developed? Are we developed yet? But before we get there, we must deal with that process. And that process requires unified approach to the integration of economic, social components in plans, our policies, and our programs for the people's benefit. That's the process we must take, a unified approach, integrating all in our plans. The issue of environment, the issues, pollution, women, habitat, hunger, unemployment, all of these things are important. All of these things, along with resource allocations, require public and institutional attention. We have to pay attention to these. We must, as I said, have a unified approach as part of that process. Next. I believe that the process has to have a goal, as I said before. And we know that energy is essential and central to any endeavor, which, whether economic or social, that we engage in. It's fundamental. Let me refer you to what the minister responsible for energy for the government of Montserrat, Dr. Joseph, in his address to the people of Montserrat to open participation in the CARICOM Energy Month. I will read what it says, what he said in that presentation, because every word is important. Every word in that is important. Next, please. It's the policy, he states, the policy is structured and designed to ensure that by 2030, Montserrat has reliable, low-cost, sustainable provision of energy services matched to the societal and development needs of Montserrat over time, equitably provided to all sectors of society, and based on robust, diverse energy sources and distribution systems that utilize appropriate generation technologies. There is growing concern regarding the dependence of the energy on imported fossil fuels for its energy needs. We must transition. This transition can be achieved with or by maximizing the use of indigenous resources into the island's energy mix. We as a nation are blessed with various resources to build a resilient energy sector. Montserrat must transition to a new resilient economy that is anchored in sustainable development. The foundation of this is clean, renewable energy. On this foundation will be placed the pillars of new and diverse industries, such as modern agriculture, information technology, financial services, and manufacturing. And as we, as a country, citizens, and leaders, we must participate. Yeah. Next slide. Investing in renewable energy will reduce operating costs and lower the cost of electricity for households and business. It will also help create the foundation for a new sustainable, resilient, prosperous, and equitable economy. It will stabilize energy prices, create urgently required new jobs, enhance resiliency, shrink the region's carbon footprint, and fast-track commitments to the Paris Climate Agreement, decrease leakage of foreign exchange, and diminish dependence on imported fuels. I read all of that purposely because all of what is said in that statement by the minister is important. We must have this in mind. Next slide, please. We must first understand that there's a process. Development is a process. And what is that process? We must first integrate the sentiments of that statement in all our plans and projects in all sectors. No proposal, no project should exclude or fail to highlight its energy requirements. Its component must be flagged at all costs. The financial impact of this component requirement must be delineated. All stakeholders, that's all of us, at home and abroad, must be made aware of its existence and potential impact on them. We must all be persuaded of its efficacy. We need to do this in every sector. Why? Because when we attempt to justify building our economy around X, Y, and Z, the minister that I quoted is responsible as well for a drive for what is called information and communications technology. He believes in it. But I know he knows that that thrust cannot take place unless we have adequate energy resources. Next, please. We must maximize the use of our indigenous resources into the island's energy mix. We cannot go down the road of fossil fuels any longer. We must make use of our own resources. What are the indigenous resources? Here are some. This is just some. But these are what we can, in fact, utilize given today's technology. Biomass energy, solar energy, wind energy, wave energy, water, geothermal energy. Geothermal energy, I say it again because it is critical to our development. All of these can be converted, changed in form to electricity and hydrogen. All of it. Let's talk a bit about electricity. Next slide, please. Electricity Next slide. Next slide, please. Electricity is by far the most flexible, um, known form of energy in use in our environment today. It is transformed from so many sources and has so many uses, it has become indispensable in our daily lives. It is used directly at its source, or it is further transformed for immediate use, or is readily transmitted elsewhere for similar use. I don't think there's much more I can say that you don't already know about electricity. Can we go to the next slide, please? It is most flexible, known form of energy in use. Next slide, please. Let's talk about hydrogen. Hydrogen, it is the most abundant element in this planet and, to our best of our knowledge, in the universe. Like electricity, it too is very flexible, but that is not well known or in use today. Our best source of hydrogen from Montserrat is our water. To harness it from the water, we need electricity. To harness it, we need electricity. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. It is a result of the new technology that we become aware of hydrogen. Like electricity, it can be directly used at its source, or it can further transform for immediate use, or is readily transmitted elsewhere for similar use. In turn, it can be used as a source to generate electricity. As a result, it can be used to store energy derived from sources such as solar and wind and geothermal. For solar and wind, we know which is intermittent. We need storage in order to fully utilize it. Hydrogen is there for that. When we need the backup from storage, hydrogen is there for that because it can generate electricity in return. With our geothermal resource, we have the potential to produce as much hydrogen as we will require, not just for our local consumption, but as we mentioned, I think by Ashneil, for sale. We can monetize it. It is fast becoming an energy source and carrier as ubiquitous as electricity. Ubiquitous means, to me, all over, doing everything. So it's going to be electricity and hydrogen in this new world. The minister, I think, gets it well. He understands. In the Montserrat National Energy Policy, it states, it's entitled The Power to Change. The minister states, we have the power to change and we must believe that we have that power. We must believe that we have the power to change. We have that power. That's why I think we have a deal breaker. The government, the development of our indigenous energy sources is vital to our overall development thrust. It underlines and supports all of the identifiable paths to our sustainable development for Montserrat. Our solar and wind resources are of vital importance and available, but severely limited because of our physical size and terrain. But we have vast potential resource in the form of geothermal energy. Some estimates place it beyond 800 megawatt threshold. Next. We harness all of these resources. Why? Because, as I said, I think it's the deal breaker. It is the only natural resource with a sustainable path to our future. We must harness all of these resources to support all of our local domestic use and the possible industries coming from it that we want for development. Services in manufacturing, agriculture, in tourism, in health and wellness, fisheries, marine industries, for regional as well as global reach. We must monetize our energy resources and take our place as an early player in the emerging hydrogen economy. I think most of you have somewhere along the line heard that term. It's important. Don't keep it in the back of your mind. Keep it in the front of your mind. Hydrogen economy that is destined to transform the world economy from fossil fuel to renewable energy in the light of the threat of climate change. We cannot escape the need for climate change mitigation. And one major way is to move away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And in moving to renewable energy, we have within our grasp the wherewithal to be on the forefront. Next, please. We have within our grasp what it takes, because we have the energy resource and we have the technical expertise. If we don't have it, it's time we start developing it. And we can use that energy resource now to make ourselves a player, big time player, in the move to the hydrogen economy. For the first time, Montserrat, not small, we're big when it comes to energy. Let us use it.